I am hoping by now that it is abundantly clear that size matters when it comes to images, and smaller is definitely better. So with smaller images, we're talking about things like faster builds, faster deployments, less money wasted on storage, and the killer one for me, less attack surface for the bad guys to aim at. So running our apps with a minimal OS and minimal supporting packages, that is the gold standard. I mean, I've said it before, if we could run our apps commando, so without any OS at all, heck yeah, we definitely would. I mean, go check out unikernels. Anyway, small images is what we're aiming for. The problem is, more often than not, our build pipelines look like this. So we start out with a pretty big image. You know, one that's got a shed load of packages and build tools that who knows, maybe we'll need them, but maybe we won't. Then we copy in a bunch more tools that we know we need. We throw in our app code and then we do the build. And the image is huge. And this is where it falls apart, right? Then we ship it to production with all the build stuff left in. I mean, it's crazy. It's like building a car in some ginormous factory with robots and lifters and paint stations and all that jazz, and then shipping the car with the factory still attached. I mean, who'd do that? Nobody, right? Only in the software business, we do it all the time. It's just crazy. Now, good software developers and those with the time, right? Well, they came up with ways around this, but it was always at the expense of added complexity. So we'd usually have Dockerfiles all glued together with scripts and automation voodoo. And it worked alright, don't get me wrong. It was just clunky and extra work. Well, multi-stage builds to the rescue. This here, what we're talking about now, is official supported technology from the core Docker project. And it's simple. We're talking a single Docker file and zero scripting wizardry. Here's the high level, right? We've got a Docker file here, and by now it should look safe and familiar. Only, you know what? It is a bit different. The main thing to note is that we have got multiple from instructions, 3 in this example. Okay, well, that's new-ish. Well, each one marks a distinct build stage. So internally, right, they're numbered from 0 at the top. But even better, we can give them friendly names. So stage 0 here is storefront, and stage 1 here is app server, and then the last stage, production. Well, a regular Docker image build steps through this from top to bottom. So the storefront stage here is standard stuff. Pull a base image, a big one, right? Set the working directory, copy in some app code and do some build work, par for the course so far. The base image it pulled is already big, and then we fattened it up even more by adding stuff in and doing builds. The app server stage, same again really. Pull another big image, set a working directory, copy some stuff in, run a build, rinse and repeat. End result, we spit out another even bigger image. All standard stuff so far though. But let's step back and take an inventory, right? At this point in the build, we've got 4 images. The 2 that each build stage pulled down, plus the 2 that each build stage churned out. The storefront stage here churned out an image based on Node latest, so an image with a bunch of OS and build tools, plus a small tiny app-related piece of code that we actually want at runtime. Same again for the app server stage. We churned out an image based on Maven latest with a bunch of OS and packages, and again, a pretty small amount of code we're actually interested in. So 4 images with a ton of build machinery inside and precious little production code. Okay, on to the production stage where it actually gets interesting. Importantly, we're starting from the Java Alpine image, which right from the start, okay, is significantly smaller than the Node and Maven images we used before. So that's our best practice, right? Starting from a decently small image. Then a bit of standard stuff here, and we get this copy from instruction. And this is where the magic of multi-stage builds really comes into play. The copy from here grabs that image created by the storefront build stage, and it picks out just the application code that we want, and it leaves the rest of the image behind. Brilliant. Then another copy from, this one taking the image built by the app server stage, and again, pulling out just the application code we want, and it sticks it in this image, then we tell the app how to run. So recapping, right, because I want to be clear about this. Stage 0 of the build here takes a giant image. Great for building, okay, not so great for production. Well, it builds some app code and it spits out an even bigger image. Stage 1 does the same, pulls a big image, adds some stuff in, throws out an even bigger one. At this point in the build, we've got 4 images, and inside of them we have got a boatload of build time machinery, but just a small amount of production code. Maybe think of these 2 stages as building a car, right? Stage 0 at the top here builds, look, I don't know, right, the chassis and the bodywork, right? Then stage 1 here builds the engine and powertrain, but they've both still got the factory attached. Well, the production stage here grabs the body from up here and the engine from down here, but it leaves the factories behind and it puts them all together and ships just the car. In the real world of software, yeah, well, it's pulling out just the bits of application that we need at runtime, leaving all the build stuff behind and spitting out an image with our application plus a tiny amount of OS and dependencies. Love it. So let's do it. Now I've got a copy of this repo here, which is actually a fork of this repo, and I'm in the app directory where the Dockerfile is. So although it's a newish format to the Dockerfile, it's just a regular Docker image build command. We'll tag the image like this, and we'll build it from here. And that's away. Now the build's going to take a minute or two while it pulls the images and the likes, right? So I'm going to fold space-time and bring us out somewhere in the future when this is done. Alright, we're back. And... right, these images here are the ones that were used and produced by the first 2 build stages, and they're pretty big, right? But this one here, this is the one we're going to use in production, and it's tiny by comparison. So that's it, right? Not hard to see. The production image is about, what, a quarter of the size of the 2 build stage images? That is a pretty solid saving in my book. And the best thing about it, it was easy. A single Docker file, a normal Docker image build command, and absolutely no scripting. How cool is that? Well, I think time for a recap. Alright, that was some proper action, yeah? Real apps made into real images. Well, recapping, right, we said right at the top that it is all about the apps. Containers, yeah, they're crazy cool and all, but on their own, they're not a lot of use to our businesses, so we put apps in them. And to do that, we start out with our app code, like our source code and dependencies and stuff. We create a Docker file, which really is just a bunch of instructions that tell Docker how to take our code and make an image from it. So we say things like, what base image do we want to use? If your app's Windows, then obviously choose an appropriate Windows base. If it's Linux, choose Linux, yeah? And a good place to start is the official repos, yeah? Anyway, once we've got the base image, that's when we start throwing our app on top. Copy in the files, bring in any dependencies, build stuff that we need, and then set things like network ports and the application that we want to run when the image is started as a container. Well, we feed all of this into a Docker image build command, and out pops an image ready and raring to start containers. Love it. Well, once we're cool with that, then we can really start turning up the heat with multi-stage builds. These give us leaner and better images, ideally suited for production environments. Brilliant. Now let me beat my drum one final time about those other mystical powers of the Docker file. So outside of letting Docker know how to build an image, it is documentation. And it's a potential bridge between dev and ops, a way for developers to describe their app to ops. And also, yeah, a way to quickly onboard new hires and the likes. So you get a new hire and she's like, how does such and such an app work? Easy. Just get her to check the Docker file. I do think it's a beautiful thing. Coming up next, we're going to start focusing in a bit on containers.